Hello and welcome to Claret and Blue, our Inside Bodymoor show match preview for Aston Villa versus Manchester United this Sunday at Villa Park. I'm Dan Rolinson, joined for this one by John Townley. John, before we get into the specifics of the show, huge game, isn't it, this?
Yeah, absolutely. Biggest game of the season so far for one reason, really. It's a six-pointer. Race for top 4, top 5, however, you really want to look at it. But Villa, at this moment in time, fourth, they've hit a bit of a dip in the last month or so, I guess.
Weeks or so, yeah.
Yeah, possibly longer. And United typically look on the way up. And I think they've won 3 in a row, won 4 out of the last 5. So it's going to be a very difficult game. It was always going to be a difficult game, I think, because you know what United are like. But yeah, this game is it's massive. There's no other way of talking about it, and we'll get onto it in the press conference in a minute. But Emery never really kind of plays into the occasion of a match, I suppose. But he called this, he didn't say 6-pointer, but he said in his own way, like, this is a match for 6 points, basically. Yeah, and it has the feeling of a huge game. It's, Villa go 11 points or United go 5 points behind us. So it is, in every way, it's massive, and it's not a game that I've been looking forward to be honest, because these types of games I just get stressed about and I can't stop thinking about them.
We said this, didn't we, in the show that we did on Monday? If you could only win one in that stupid fantasy of Chelsea or Man United, we both kind of went for Man United in the end. Obviously, we lost on Wednesday in the Cup, so we've kind of got half of it out of the way now. If we do beat Man United at the weekend, that will be massive to open up like that to 11 points, to not specifically just that it's to Man United, but to 6th place, to the Europa League. If we're all expecting 5th to be Champions League, to be 11 points kind of safe of dropping out of that, dropping out of contention is. Obviously, there's still a long way to go. We're in February. The games are going to come thick and fast as we get into the Conference League and all the things we've talked about. We haven't got the FA Cup to worry about now, have we? So that's one less thing to think about. But if that is 11 points come Sunday night, that's a massive psychological thing to have that buffer. It's 4 games where we have to basically lose 4 and Man United have to win 4 to close that gap. It's not impossible, but it does feel unlikely that kind of points gap would be overturned, in my opinion, which is a bold thing to say. You're right with that facial expression. I'd rather it be 11 points than 5. 5 feels like nothing.
5 is nothing. It really is nothing. I keep saying that up until our first game in the conference, when we return to European duties, we need to have amassed as many points as we possibly can, because that will then feel like a season altogether. I've put a piece out earlier this morning, and not that I have like a massive influence about what's going to happen at Villa Park on Sunday, but I just kind of wanted to pen my thoughts on, like, whatever happens, the atmosphere has to be bang on Sunday. I don't think it has been, in all honesty, for the Newcastle game or the Chelsea games. And I think that's, partially because the Newcastle game was, they scored 2 goals, kind of back to back. And it was a strange atmosphere, because I don't think Villa really got going in the game until Bailey came on. So, this isn't me criticising sports, because it's, how do you create an atmosphere when it's quite dull? And it does, matter what the players do on the pitch. But I just think going into Sunday, we all know the magnitude of the game and we can't hide it. Do you know what I mean? We just can't. We know it's a massive match and the biggest game of the season so far. Yeah, the atmosphere has to be bang on, and I hope that the 40,000 fans that are there will deliver, and they'll have, obviously, the full backing of the team. But I hope it can, really play out in our favour, because of the fans. We know what they can do for the team, whether we go behind or whether we start slowly or whatever it may be. For those, for that 90 minutes, it has to be as raucous as it can be, because we know Villa Park is the best home advantage that we can have. It is, so, or that many teams could have. It's one of the best in the league. So yeah, we know what we've done in the last, since February of last year, so 12 months. Winning 16 out of 17, then losing twice in a row. Granted, but we know how good it can be. And for United, it's so imperative that they come to Villa Park and they feel a powerful crowd against them, I suppose. I do think the last 2 games and how we've struggled and how the crowd has been a bit dull, because, granted, the players haven't played very well, and that is the reason, I think. But Emery kind of try to fire the fans up, really, and say, listen, we need everyone individually to be back in the team.
Yeah, I didn't flash up the presser kind of video clip card thing as we started talking there, because we were going to do them in little segments, but you've referenced the press conference a few times there. Is that the kind of key message you felt at BODYMOOR today, that kind of we're all in this together, let's rally behind this, because this is a massive game?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Emery might have said this anyway, But I just do think because, as I say, I think it's been a bit dull on, in terms of the atmosphere. But again, it's not criticism. I'm just saying that because
that's just how it is.
I don't think the players have particularly helped because they haven't started games well. But Emery, he mentioned it a few times that the fans, not as a criticism, but as a kind of a motivation of we're all in this and we can all play a part in what would be a massive win. This is more than 3 points. And Emery always says, "Oh, it's the next game." And he said something along the lines of, "We've done match day 1, match day 2, match day 5, match day 22. This is just match day 24." Almost as if like every game is the same. He tried to kind of play that card as well, but at the same time, he called it like a 6-pointer, and he referenced how important it could be. Ten Hag himself didn't say this game specifically as a cup final, but he said that all of Man United's games until the end of the season are now cup finals because of the position that they found themselves in, in the turn of the new year because of the poor start they had, but now they have picked up a bit. But again, this, as you said earlier, Dan, this would be huge for kind of psychological reasons because firstly, for us, because we've been in a bit of a blip, we can then stretch to 11 points. It's like, we can breathe a bit and kind of not less pressure, but we can go into games not knowing that, that even if we were, in the 80th minute, we need a goal, we're not frantically getting the ball forward. It's still composed and we know we can still win a match. And then for United to have turned a corner or seemingly turned a corner, but then if they come to Villa Park and lose to a team who will presumably be a rival for Champions League football come May, that'll be a massive kind of dent for them.
Injury update is next, and the biggest talking point is something we've been speaking about for a long time. Where the hell is Pau Torres? He's back in contention, isn't he, for Sunday? That's really big as well, isn't it?
Obviously returned to the bench against Chelsea, but was never going to start the game. Whether he'd come on or not, I think that was only in case Longley, or maybe there was 2 injuries or something, and Torres was there for.
Also, we're winning comfortably.
Yeah, possibly. Could maybe start on Sunday. We'll see. Again, Emery didn't say that or mention that specifically, but hopefully. But I'd say hopefully as long as he's fully fit, because what we don't want is obviously a third time that he aggravates his ankle injury. So we'll see. It would obviously be a huge boost if he does play from the off. And again, Longley, I don't think it's been particularly poor in the Chelsea game. You can't single anyone out because it was a bad performance, kind of full stop. But Longley, I think, has been fine when he's played. It's just that he's not Pau Torres.
It's the same thing as if we were playing a reserve goalkeeper that is still decent. They're not Emi Martinez, are they? When teams know to come and sit in on the midfielders and stop us playing out from the back, basically, Pau Torres is sort of the kind of key person to unlock that and bypass the midfield with a killer pass that, frankly, none of the other players we've got in defence, whilst they might be decent on the ball, they're not Pau Torres. They're not the same. So if he's fit, ready to start on Sunday, and there isn't any risk of aggravating injury for a third time, it's an absolute no-brainer that he comes back in with Conte obviously missing as well. You want that back four to be bolstered by Torres, don't you? Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's just a shame that would kind of go some way to curing one thing in terms of how we progress the ball and dominate teams in their own half. That's what Torres brings. But then it's a shame that you can't have the kind of balance then of Conte's playing on the right and then instead Carlos is playing there when he's rarely played with Matty Cash, and then how does that dynamic work? It didn't work well against Chelsea. Again, not singling anyone out, but it's hardly a kind of, I'm not particularly confident, let's say that, on that side of the defence. Emery said himself that Cash would often play because of his kind of attacking qualities rather than defensively. Not say he's a bad defender, but Conte is a good defender or a better defender than Matty Cash. And if you're any opposition team, I mean, we're not UEFA licensed coach or anything, but you can tell that, well, okay, we'll attack down the right because that's where Villa's vulnerability will be, because Emery clearly wanted to have more security there with Conte, which again has a knock-on effect across the team. So that is a worry for me, especially coming up against a Man United team that they're not necessarily free scoring, but they make chances and they've got very quick, dynamic attackers as well that will hit you on transition. So yeah, mate, the more I talk about it, the more this game on Sunday is just you almost want it to be postponed for a couple of weeks and just have do you know what I mean? I should be excited.
Get it out of the way.
but it feels like we're, I don't want to say we're on the slide. We're not on the slide at all because injuries have hampered us as well. So it's not anyone's fault, but that, do you know what I mean? Those are just the facts of the situation, which is a shame because there's not much we can do about injuries. But they have made a difference to us. And just hope that confidence isn't an issue on Sunday. And again, it goes back to the point that Emery made that we're making as well. Villa Park has to be on top form because that will again go, even if it gives us 5% more chance of winning, that's a big slice, considering what a big game it is.
Luca Dean's also back in contention in as well. That's a nice little boost.
I highly doubt he'll play on Sunday. He's only just returned to training, so he could be in the squad, was the message from Emery. And yeah, good to see him back because obviously, as I said earlier, the games will be coming thick and fast starting from next month. So if he can get back up to full speed, who have we got after United? I think it's Fulham away, then Forest at home, I think. So those two games, hopefully he can get some minutes there and we can kind of plough on. First Conference League game back round 16 at the start of next month. And hopefully by then we'll start to see some more players come back and back to full fitness, and that's key.
This is the big one now. It's the 6-pointer. Is it going to be 11 points or 5 points? Will it just be 8 points? What team do you think Emery will put out to try and make it 11 points? You got Torres in contention. You got Dean in contention. There's a couple of more options available now too. Unai Emery. How do you think he will line up?
I think unchanged, to be honest.
Do you think?
I think so. I mean, Torres will play if he's fully fit to do so, and if Emery is told and he feels confident enough in his body to play, I'm 100% sure he will play if that's the case. If they are a bit more cautious, then Longley will play, and I think I'm okay. Basically, whatever happens in terms of that situation, I'm happy with, because if Torres isn't playing, well then clearly he isn't completely ready to play, and therefore I don't want him to play. But if he is playing, then he should be 100% to play. So I think unchanged, which is a bit boring. But you've got
really shut down this podcast segment, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm trying to get every last second out. No, you've got Diaby on the bench, who when he came on against Chelsea, I mean, he didn't kind of make a massive impact in terms of before he scored. That might sound a bit critical, but you just need that bit of confidence from him, and hopefully he's got that now. So I'd almost leave him in reserve to bring off the bench, because if he's not on the bench, then who comes on to make that impact? If it's not Diaby, I don't know who it would be. Zaniolo scored against Sheffield United, but there's been little to suggest that he'd come on and change a game for Villa. So I'd probably go with unchanged. I don't think there's a whole lot you can do unless he kind of pulls out something wild and puts Torres almost like a left back, almost like he did with Concert, and then you've got Longley and Carlos. So basically that situation of Concert playing right back is then flipped to Torres playing on the other side, and then you work it the other way and kind of, you put a mirror on the two 11s, if that makes sense. I don't think that's what he'll do, but he tried something similar in pre-season, didn't he? So I would say that didn't work though. So I don't think that's what will happen, but that would be the only other way of playing, I think, if you want to kind of try and be more defensively secure potentially. I'd probably just go unchanged, but again, that's dependent on Longley and Torres. I don't think there's a whole lot else we could do unless Tielemans drops out, but again, I don't think that would be the case. So
I like how you tried to save the segment there by offering something different. I appreciate that, by talking about Torres playing left back, which I don't think he'll do either.
Coming back to America, what did I say against Brentford?
So that's Martinez in goal, Cash, Carlos, Longley, if Pau Torres is not 100%, and Moreno, Kamara and Luiz in midfield, McGinn on the right, Tielemans off the left, Bailey and Watkins up front. Yep.
Just feels a bit predictable though, doesn't it? And that's where I'm a bit like, I wouldn't be surprised to see changes. You don't need to be a tactical expert to know where to get at this Villa team. And Chelsea and Newcastle have both done pretty similar things and won 3-1, and Villa haven't really been in the game. So that does concern me, that if we don't change it, it kind of leaves ourselves wide open to losing the match.
Do you think there's a possibility of McGinn off the left side rather than the right, and Bailey and Diaby both playing in a swap for Tielemans?
Yeah, and again, this is the kind of the other option, I suppose, of what Emery could do, because of what we've just mentioned. Then you almost feel like we need to freshen it up somehow, some way. That doesn't need to be at this need to be at the expense of our, Emery always says, like, our way or our idea, and we need to be consistent in that. But it just feels like in the last 2 games, it doesn't feel like we've seen what we've seen, and it wasn't very good.
Yeah.
And Emery will be fully aware of that, and I don't expect us just to play the same team and play in exactly the same way. However, it feels like if we don't make a few changes, then we will be, susceptible to something that United will be ready for, should we say. And again, with the players that they've got, they aren't the world-class players they've had previously down the years, but they're players that I know could have joy against us in the way that we have been playing. So, yeah, we'll see. But in terms of personnel, there isn't a whole lot you could bring off the bench apart from Diaby, to be honest. So that's why I'd be surprised to see many changes, to be honest.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's a fair assessment with the information that we have at the moment. Let's end the show then with predictions. The last time out we did this was obviously for the Sheffield United game. We don't do the preview show for cup games, but I don't think either of us would have predicted a 3-1 defeat to Chelsea anyway. So 0-0 for both of us. I would have thought. The first Premier League games of 2024, Everton, we both predicted Villa to win and we drew, no points. Newcastle, we both predicted Villa to win, and obviously we lost, no points. Sheffield United, we both predicted Villa to win. I went 4-1, you went 2-1, and of course it was 5-0, so a point each for both of us. I did get 5 goals, but just not quite in the right order. So it's Man United at home, massive game, big talk about a 5-point gap or 11-point gap or the 8-point gap when we all inevitably draw, which to be honest I would be okay with, I think. I don't know, would I be? I don't know.
That's me in the 80th minute.
Yeah. If we're losing 1-0 towards the end, I'd be very happy with the draw.
Yeah, I'm going to just sit on the fence, mate, and say 2-2.
Desmond.
I don't feel confident, if I'm being honest. And I think that is the kind of, what we said before about Man United. It seems to be that even at Villa's best moment and United's perceived worst moment, we're turning up at half time and we still go on to lose the game. It's just in a weird way, if Villa came into this having won 18 out of 18 at home and had won the last 3 games on the bounce and United were in that bad position they were, I still would feel trepidation. So
I'm still thinking, well, they'll be the one to stop it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to tell myself that I'd be feeling like this anyway, so that shouldn't cloud my judgment of Villa not being particularly good recently at home. But I can't kind of go away from those feelings of Newcastle weren't good, Chelsea weren't good, and United are playing with a bit of swagger now. So I'll say it's a draw, but I wouldn't even take it, to be honest. Again, it all depends how we start the match, to be honest. But
yeah, definitely.
Two draw.
I think I'm just fixated on the thing of do not lose. So if we were to draw, I think, okay, well, we've achieved the fact of we didn't lose, then we didn't let that kind of lead, that gap go. Yeah, I know. You can look at it from both ways. I'm going to act as, like I said, we've both predicted Villa to win every game of 2024. So as a differential, you've gone with the draw. I am going to go with the win because I always do, which is probably silly of me, and say 3-2, the reverse of the fixture on Boxing Day. I just think it's one of those ones that we'll only win by outscoring them, which is a very Mark Owen thing to say. I don't mean that in the literal sense that if we score more goals, we'll win, obviously.
Say that again. We'll only win by scoring more goals.
We'll only win if we score more goals than Man United. I mean it in the sense that I think we'll concede goals. The only way we'll win is by outscoring them. I think we'll concede.
Yeah, that would be the case, yeah.
I've said 2 goals, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not just a case that, well, if we win 1-0, that's great, or 2-1. Obviously, you've outscored them then as well. But you know what I mean? I think we'll go behind at some point and have to come back. That's how I envisage it going. United will score, and I've gone for 2. So we need to outscore them and have a great game and score 3 goals even to stand a chance of getting anything.
And I can imagine United scoring twice. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah. Well, I said 2-2, but it doesn't feel like a game that will be caged and Villa managed to win it 1-0. It doesn't have that feeling of it. No. And I'd absolutely die for a 1-0 win. Yeah, let's just see what happens. Roll on Sunday. Yeah, let's get it out of the way, basically. We did a combined 11 on Friday evening. Obviously, this has come out today on Saturday lunchtime or whatever it is. I've decided to upload it as. The post-match reaction will be back on Sunday evening. That'll be me and Matt Kendrick for that one. So, John, thanks for your time this evening recording this one. Thanks to everyone who's watched along on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can leave a review. They are immensely helpful. If you're watching on YouTube, scroll down to the comments and get involved in our conversation as well. We appreciate your support as always. We'll see you again next time on Sunday evening. Yeah, let's just get this game out of the way. Cheers, everyone. We'll see you soon.